Hi, I'm Sandhya Rao. I'm a Group Principal Product Manager at Microsoft Teams, and I'm really excited today to talk to you about real-time communications and connected devices. And it's actually funny because I was skiing last week in Colorado, and we were having a great time. I was with my family, and one of the days we decided, hey, why don't we meet at the top of the mountain and have lunch? And this sounded like a great idea in the morning. And as the day progressed, of course, we all ski at different abilities, so we kind of, branched off. And when lunchtime came about, we realized we hadn't really picked the right time or, kind of talked about when we were going to meet. So I went ahead and I texted everybody. Somebody else tried to use their AirPods via Siri to call, and then, there was no sign of, the kids because they were off skiing somewhere where the Wi-Fi wasn't really great. At the end of the day, we did end up meeting to eat, but everybody arrived at different times and it wasn't as ideal as we had planned in the morning. And it really got me thinking because, this is actually one of the main challenges today with real-time communications, even with your mobile phone and your desktop. And so what I want to talk to you today about is really about these new form factors that I think will be critical to continuing to improve real-time communications over the next several years so that no matter where you are, you'll be able to effectively connect with others and be able to be more productive. If there's two things that I want you to take away from today, it is this idea that real-time communications is coming to a number of connected devices over the next several years. So that is going to be a continuing growing trend. And with the power of AI, it's going to actually help accelerate and improve real-time communications overall. So let's get into it. A little bit about myself. I started in the connected device space about over 10 years ago at a small startup. It was an iPad point of sale company. I then moved to Honeywell, where I led the consumer software group that worked on mobile apps and web apps to connect security systems and thermostats so that you could actually remotely operate them. A little over 5 years ago, I started at Microsoft and had an amazing job where my role was to integrate Microsoft Teams real-time communications into the HoloLens. That was a really interesting project where we had to really think creatively as to how to do this in an augmented reality space. I then took on the Android appliance portfolio at Microsoft Teams within the devices group, and we now have a portfolio of Android devices where, outside of mobile phones, you can actually connect and collaborate with different form factors using Microsoft Teams and real-time communications. And I continue on that progression even today. Now I'm working on some emerging categories as well as injecting AI into the platforms that we have. In terms of the opportunity, we know that real-time communications is a significant industry and continues to grow. We're looking at about a $350 billion industry in 2030. And when you think about video conferencing within that, which is what we focus on in Microsoft Teams, that's a $16 billion industry, by 2030. And then the interesting statistic that I saw recently was around how many people are actually going to be going to work versus working remotely. And a recent Gallup poll shows that 8 out of 10 people are actually going to be either hybrid or remote over the coming years. And that's really a significant shift in how people are thinking about working and connecting with each other, which really makes real-time communications even more critical because you're not going to necessarily be in the same place all the time. And when we think about this, these statistics, these are really focused on the enterprise world and information workers. But when we overlay what's happening in the connected device space, This opportunity is even greater. When we think about there's going to be about 30 billion connected devices out there in the marketplace by 2030. And that's a $620 billion opportunity. And I definitely see how real-time communications injected into many of these different devices can really improve end user experiences and open up new scenarios and problems that we can solve together. So I want to share some of the use cases where different form factors are really important when we think about real-time communications. First, this is an image of a phone. It looks like a phone and it sits on a desk, but it's actually an Android appliance and it runs Microsoft Teams. And this is a device where it's really important for people like receptionists or lawyers or salespeople who are making calls on a daily basis, on an ongoing basis. And they really need a highly performant device where they can, pick up that handset, have a private call, they can dial the keypad, they can quickly get into their calls, quickly scroll through and find the numbers that they need to transfer to. And that's what this device provides. When we think about Microsoft Teams on a mobile phone or a desk phone, you still have to open the app, you have to find the dial pad, you have to go ahead and you're doing soft key clicking, and that's sometimes not as ideal. And so this is a use case where it's not going to be for everybody because most people have a desk phone, a desktop client, or a mobile phone. But for some use cases, this is actually going to be a really important device to be more productive. We also have use cases where you may be using a laptop or a desktop, but you may want some assistance next to you to help you, whether that's a voice assistant or maybe you have another device that has your calendar and runs some additional apps on it. So in that scenario, we see a companion device can be very helpful. And maybe you use that device to run your, calls and meetings on, and you keep your desktop device for your, other productivity apps, whether it's, creating PowerPoints or creating, designs or, other applications. Another scenario where having a different form factor could really be important when it comes to real-time communications is when you're collaborating with others on a whiteboard or, some sort of collaborative tool where you want a larger canvas. Maybe you want a 24-inch or a 27-inch canvas that you can, write on and collaborate more seamlessly, as well as have those real-time communications running in the background. And so this is a Teams display where we offer that type of functionality on a larger form factor that can still sit on your desk. This one I actually have on my desk and I use all the time. And what it is it's an always on experience, which is really important for me, especially when, it's morning time, I'm grabbing my coffee, I'm getting to that, meeting. And, when I get to my desk, maybe my laptop isn't booted up or, it takes time to sign in. But this always on device shows my meeting. It shows which one is the most prominent. I can quickly just touch the join button and get into my meeting really quickly and I'm not late. And I can still, on the side, figure out, how my laptop is, log into my laptop and figure out, what I'm doing on there. And then lastly, and this is a big space that we're seeing a lot of traction in even now, is shared space devices. So, we have, opportunities to go into work and collaborate with the people who are there. But in today's world, there's a lot of people who are still remote. So how do you connect all the people in the office with the people that are remote? Well, one option is to crowd around a laptop and try to, have everybody in the office sort of connect with that remote person. But a better way to do that is through a shared device that's at work. You're not sharing any of your personal information. You can simply go up to that shared device and start collaborating and, join your calls and meetings from there. When we work on all of these different form factors, there are a lot of considerations that are really important to think through. And so I wanted to share with you three main ones that are critical with any integration of real-time communications with connected devices. First, understanding the user experience is going to be really important. I'll talk a little bit about that. Second, really understanding the hardware that you're using in the OS. What are the capabilities and the limitations there? And is it going to actually meet the needs of your user experience? And then lastly, really thinking through that maintenance and support infrastructure and platform that you have so that ongoing you can make sure that whatever devices that you have built are going to be maintained and supported for the lifetime of that device. So let's get into these in a little bit more detail. First, in terms of the user experience, it is really important to understand what is the specific use case that you're solving for, and what is that problem or group of people that you really need to understand and get under how to really solve their problem in a better way. In the case of the ski challenge, that is a very specific use case, and there are definitely ways that we can solve for that are different than what a mobile or a desktop, client can provide. And along those lines, while you're developing, it's important to avoid that Swiss Army knife type of solutioning. So that's really what a mobile phone or a desktop can provide, right? They have multiple apps, you can access those apps. It is providing a much more holistic solution. And whatever you're building in the connected device world is likely not going to replace a desktop or a mobile experience. What you really want to think about is how your connected device is actually providing something that you can't actually get from a desktop or a mobile experience today. And then lastly, once you've figured out the use case and what type of solution you want to build, really thinking hard about what are the specific workloads that people are going to do on this device and making sure that those are really quickly accessible and easy to use. And so again, it goes a little bit into that Swiss Army knife solutioning in the sense that you want to be laser focused on the top 3 to 5 things that people really want to do with your device and making sure that those are really, really simple to access, whether that's, approaching the device and being able to just touch it to join a meeting or quickly picking up that handset and dialing a phone number. Those are the types of things that are really important to think through. On the hardware and OS side, we really have a number of things that we have to think through, and this could be really a session in and of itself. Thinking through things like audio and video capabilities and the components that you're using, as well as the chipset that you're using, is incredibly important. And there's going to be a quality versus cost conversation for each one of those elements. And again, it goes into what use case are you really trying to bring to market? In the case of a phone, the most important thing there is audio today. And so when we think about that, we may want to cut corners on, the video capabilities. Maybe, the video isn't as great, or maybe there is no video camera at all on that phone. But the audio has to really be highly performant, and the chipset has to actually be able to handle that. In addition to that, understanding hardware resources and capabilities are going to become very important while you're developing your connected device solution. And this goes into the features that you're putting on there because each feature is going to take up CPU or GPU, even understanding which features take a GPU versus CPU and understanding how that's going to actually impact the performance of the overall device when you're in a call or a meeting. Those are things that are really important to consider as you develop your solution. And then lastly, and this is really important, but sometimes, people forget to think about this, is what is the life cycle of the hardware and OS that you're using? So today we're all really kind of trained that every 2 years you're going to go and get a different mobile phone, a new version of your mobile phone. That is not the case for these form factors per se. You're not going to, get a new fridge or a new car every 2 years. And so really thinking through what is the life cycle of the hardware you're using, what is the life cycle of the OS that you're using, and making sure that, it's going to last, it's going to be able to handle new features and functionality that you put on there, not just for 2 years, but maybe for 5 years, maybe for 7 years. Lastly, on the maintenance and support side, there's a lot of considerations here around performance and reliability. What are the fallback mechanisms that you're putting in place so that if somebody is using your device in an area where there's lower bandwidth or lower lighting, how does that impact the experience that you're trying to deliver? And monitoring, those devices and understanding when there are issues with them, and are there ways to remotely access and triage those instances so that you can better provide a better service. Also, really thinking hard about security and authentication. So what are the security apps or protocols that you're putting on there? What kind of authentication is required? Ensuring that you're, really considering all of the different ways that somebody might be able to, roguely take over or attack your device. And then lastly, the scalability aspect. So in terms of putting new features on there and being able to, easily deploy them, easily test them. Do you have a platform for that? Are you able to really understand when every new feature comes on, how much is it impacting performance, and being able to monitor that ongoing? So I want to switch gears and chat a little bit more about another trend that we're seeing in this connected device space, which is injecting AI into all of these experiences. It's a really exciting time in particular right now. And I think one of the most important things is kind of expanding how we think about real-time communications, in the sense of traditionally it was really focused on that audio feed or that video feed. And now, when we think about AI and the capabilities and the use cases that we can deliver with some of these connected devices, we need to start thinking about multi streams of audio and video and data, really, that we can actually send so that remote users can have even better experiences. For example, the image on the top right, that is an intelligent speaker. So yes, it sends, audio for the meeting, but it also sends additional audio. It sends audio, raw audio, so that you can use that for transcription. And in fact, it does speaker attributed transcription. And, it also does voice assistance. And so those are some of the things that we're seeing emerge, which not only provides a great meeting experience, but it provides assets that you can use after the meeting, or a voice assistant that you can leverage during the meeting. The middle picture is an audio video device. That device has multiple cameras on it. And so now, instead of sending one feed, it sends multiple streams of video, so that that can then be processed in the cloud, and the remote participant can get the optimal angle and view of the room, from all of the different videos that are being sent. And that's really helpful for remote participants to get a much richer understanding of what's happening in the room, getting more detail of the people that are in the room, and really feeling overall more included and immersive in the meeting. And then lastly, we know that there's a number of virtual reality and augmented reality solutions that are integrating real-time communications. And for that to actually be meaningful, we really do need to think about multiple streams that we send, whether that's data through the data channel or positional audio, a number of elements to really provide that immersive experience that you'll get through, your own VR headset with the remote participant who's also using a headset. So overall, this is an exciting time for real-time communications. I think the convergence of AI as well as connected devices with real-time communications provides a number of challenges and opportunities that I hope that we can solve together, whether it's connected cars or, in the future, flying cars even, or maybe it's augmented reality glasses or other wearables, prosthetics, where you can actually, call your healthcare provider if you're having issues, or your healthcare provider can call you because they're monitoring what's going on. Connected fridges, which we talked about, this teddy bear, this is an intelligent teddy bear. It tells stories, but what if it could call mommy, when mommy is traveling? And so you can, get a real time bedtime story from your mom, as you go to bed. The top right here, that's from a company called Proto. They're working on holographic real-time communications. And then going back to, my personal desire to have better communications when we go skiing. This is a helmet that and they're improving how to communicate on the slopes, which is really exciting. And I'm definitely going to look into that option for the next time I go skiing. So thank you so much, and really excited to hear about all the exciting, connected devices we see with real-time communications in the future.